This is Chalk Talk. We're here at the lab today with Lollis. I'm Dr. Byers. We're discussing the deadlift. The deadlift can be a wonderful lift when done right. It sometimes scares people because it has the word dead in it. But done right, it can really produce good results for you as an athlete, but also a human being. Here in the Western society, sometimes we get disconnected from our hips. And the deadlift done right can really help you connect with it. In the deadlift, you lift a weight from the ground to approximately the waist level. And I've always said, Luke, if you can't bend down to the ground, don't bother trying to lift weight from the ground. So, general rule of thumb, if you can't touch your toes, don't deadlift. Find somebody who can help you out, or take some time to work on your mobility, flexibility until you can get down there. And then the deadlift, you'd be a much better candidate for learning something like the deadlift as long as you have good form.
Exactly. And the deadlift really is a starting point for a lot of movements. I mean, from obviously the deadlift, where you can do it with the barbell and the kettlebell, but also even like the kettlebell swing. So it's a movement that everybody's got to learn to do. So when we started, we got to learn proper form.
Yeah, okay. So why don't you set me up here, Luke?
All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is have you establish your stance.
Okay.
We want your feet right inside hip width, actually.
Just inside my hips?
Yes, and that's to take away any friction between your upper body and your legs as you commence the movement. Then we get the bar right up to your shins.
Okay.
From there, we're going to practice a movement called a hip chop, and what it is cutting yourself in half at the hips and dropping back into a hinge.
Okay.
Keeping the shins vertical. From there, you can go ahead, keeping the chest pronounced forward, go down and grab the bar.
Okay.
And you're going to break the bar in half by engaging your lats and keeping your triceps flexed. From there, you can rock your hips back to put the load into your hamstring and your glutes. And what that's going to do is allow you to have a proper base to perform the movement from. We can then brace our core by pushing our belly into our feet.
Okay.
And at that point, we're going to take all the slack out of the bar so there's no looseness there.
So kind of spreading it?
Yeah, and just kind of pulling it up a little bit just to make sure that there's no...
It's not sitting on the ground.
Right.
Okay.
At that point, we're just going to push the floor away from us and get our hips to the bar. And as we bring our hips to the bar, the glutes are completely contracted, and we're going to shorten this space from our rib cage to our hip to allow for a little bit more...
like almost core engagement.
Core engagement, exactly. And from there, we're just going to return the bar to the ground. We don't have to do slow and control. We just have to follow it down, reset, then go again.
Okay, Luke, what about different grips? There's some different grips you can use to deadlift, right?
Over is great because it's a little bit more,
it kind of almost makes you work on your grip.
Right.
So
exactly. And then over-under is a lot of times preferable for people when they're using higher loads.
Yeah, so I think as you get heavier, sometimes athletes will go with over-under grip. That means that when the bar's trying to roll out of your hands, it's always bumping into one of your hands. So it's a little, you don't need as big of a grip strength in order to be able to deadlift that way. Over is just like this, and what that does is it makes you kind of train your grip, which I think is a good thing. So I think whenever you can, try and go over. If you're going to go for a 1 rep max, maybe try over-under.
Yeah, I think that's a good rule of thumb.
And I think just clearing up some of the cues. I think, you know, if you're having trouble in the deadlift, if you're feeling chronic back pain, you know, some of these simple things Luke was taking us through are really, really important. So, you know, the deadlift is all about interacting or getting the posterior chain to engage. So he named some of those muscle groups, your glutes and your hamstrings. So what you'll really feel as you perform this hip hinge, when it comes from the hinges, you'll feel your weight shift back towards your heels. And to get a good deadlift, what you want to really feel is you push up into the move, your heels are driving into the ground, or you're pushing the ground away from you. The deadlift is a great lift for other reasons as well. If you look at the top of the deadlift, it actually represents good standing posture. So I see this as a way to you know, obviously train your hips and train your posterior chain, but it also represents what good standing posture could feel like. And in some ways, the progression then becomes, can you get rid of the bar and still stand with the type of posture you have when you're lifting, you know, 200, 300 pounds from the ground. So the deadlift done right, great lift. Done wrong, it can be horrible for you. This is Luke Lollis from the lab and Dr. Byers from Spine Team Spokane signing off.